Hello and welcome to another episode of Can't Stop the Growth. I'm your host, Chad Peterman, and today we have a very special guest with us to talk all things leadership and growing a successful company. I have been or had the opportunity really twice over the last maybe year and a half to visit him out there in his home base of Phoenix. Although he is a transplant from the Midwest, we like to shout out the Midwest whenever we can. Today, I am extremely honored to have on with us Tommy Mello, the president and CEO of A1 Garage Door Service, the author of the Home Service Millionaire, and the host of what a lot of our listeners probably also listen to as well, the Home Service Expert Podcast. Welcome to the show, Tommy. Thanks again for joining us.
Thanks, Chad. Excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, let's just dive right in. I'm sure, knowing some of our listeners, I'm sure they're fairly familiar with you and what you do. I've sent them numerous of your episodes to learn something from, and you were actually the person that encouraged me, whether you knew it or didn't, to really start this because of how much you actually learn in just having conversations with great people like yourself. So with that, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing and things of that nature.
Yeah, A1 Garage Doors now is going on 15 years, and it feels like every single day it's a new company. I mean, I don't get bored. It's not getting old for me. We're in the midst right now. So I got into the garage door business in 2006. Previously to that, I actually worked at a lot of restaurants. I was, Midwest. I started out shoveling snow, mowing lawns, and then I moved up to being a dishwasher when I was 12. But I learned a lot at a restaurant. I think hospitality, I think everybody should be in it. When I have kids, I'm definitely going to make sure that they're in some type of hospitality industry to start out. But, 15 years into this thing, it's a lot different. I see a lot of these guys on these Facebook groups. They give advice, and I got to tell you, I was the same guy. One man in a truck. I had a partner, but he answered phones most of the time. So you need to really start thinking differently to grow like I want to grow. My plan is I'm in the midst of growing A1. I think we're budgeted to do 84 million this year, and that is a small number to me, actually. And I'm not trying to be whatever word you want to call it, but I fell short of where I wanted to be, but that's what we projected. But me personally, I had different goals, but my team keeps me grounded. We're building a best practices group. It's a buyers group, actually, and there's going to be 3 levels to it. And I'm working on some crazy things with that. It's kind of like Nexstar Network, but for garage doors only. And I got Julian helping me from Nexstar. They've got 880 HVAC, plumbing, electrical companies. So not only buyers group, but I just struck a pretty good deal with Service Titan to be able to get a lot of people on Service Titan. So that's a piece of it. For the roll-up acquisition side of it, that's what that's all about, is to go in together in 3 years and pull 100 to 200 companies into this. And then level 2 for me is grow A1 really fast. And by wrapping my own trucks, flying my guys out here to train, I just got a whole new group out here that flew in today. LMS, full-time recruiters. I think that the fact that we could do it greenfield is the biggest difference, because most people fail at greenfield. I'm in 19 states. The bad news is we're going to do over 20 million in Phoenix and 84 total. So I need to grow some of these other markets, get them up to, I'd like to see at least 5 markets next year doing over 10 million.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And obviously, those of you that know Tommy know that all of that stuff he talked about is stuff that is going very quickly. And I think the one thing that I've always taken from you and have been lucky enough to be out there at your facility to see it is a lot of those things you talked about are all about growing your own people. You know, when you made the comment, I have a whole new group of people out here. I know what that means, but tell the listeners what you're referring to as, you have a whole new group of people out there, and really the focus on developing your own talent.
So I think the future is going to be being able to make great employees. And there's mainly, in my case, 5, but one of them I categorize under 1, and that's technicians. But technicians are also installers. It's a little bit different group. And then I've got product specialists. So those 3 I kind of lump into one. And then we got CSRs and dispatchers. There's all kinds of other jobs we need, but those are, my goal is to have a 3-to-1 ratio by next year. And that's 3 guys actually working, turning wrenches, collecting the check from the customer versus every other 1 employee for operations. So, we put out ads all over the place. So what I've learned recently, something I'm really working on with a buddy of mine, is how awesome social media is for recruiting and really putting it into another CRM other than ServiceTitan. So, the plan is to get to, in September, get our class to 40. Right now, we've only got 15 in this next class. But what happens is you get hired, you do a ride along. There's a form that goes with it. We do a lot of things to make sure you're the best. We try to get you into the program within 72 hours. That's drug test, background check all your references. And then you do a ride along. The ride along form is important. And then there's about 5 people that have the potential to reach out to that person and make sure, from the trainers to the managers. Then you've got the lead tech that does the ride along, and the area manager that does the interview with the lead tech. And the plan is, it's crazy to think about it, but if you get 40 to 50 guys as an apprentice, they get hired. The next month they fly into Phoenix. We've got 2 apartment complexes that hold a total of about 55 rooms. And the plan is, we've got manuals, we've got an LMS, we've got things they need to do every single day. When they come here, they don't have any spare time. We even work nights and weekends now with the guys. They get Sunday off while they're in town. So, a good producer for me will do between $700,000 and $1 million. And our plan is to get the 60% of the guys through the program that it could hit $1 million their first year. That's kind of unheard of in this industry, but that's the plan. Is really, my life has turned into, I'm a marketer by trade, and my whole being now is recruiting, because marketing is easy for me. I can make the phone ring off the hook, but to get great candidates, to understand the variance between 300,000 and 1.5 million, and realize that's mostly just the personality you hired. It's the some guys I could train for 2 weeks and they'll be $1 million producers. Some guys, but it's always developing. There's KPIs, there's dashboards everywhere. We've got one-on-ones, we've got performance improvement plans, we've got ride-alongs, and very rarely, if you find a will, I'll find a way. So that's what I meant, is we got a whole new group in. But think about this. Let's just do some math, Chad. If I do get 40 guys at a minimum of 3 jobs a day is 120 jobs I need to add. That's in 1 month per day. The next month, I need to add another 120 jobs that same day. So that's 240 in it. So a lot of people will go, how the hell are you going to do that? And that's why we got to expand like this way. And also this way, we're starting to get into floor coating and we're starting to get into storage, but it's a big goal and this industry's ripe for it. So that's what I meant. I know that long answers today.
No, I think that you bring up a good point, and I'll say this, and I want to get your thoughts on it. So, your emphasis on recruiting, we have a very similar model. It's all about recruiting, all about finding the best people. And I feel like where maybe some people go wrong is they focus on what you just explained. They focus way too much on that math equation and not enough on the variable that they're bringing into the math equation, which is the people. And if we can put more focus on the people, that variable that comes in all different shapes, sizes, just like you said, I could train a guy for 2 weeks, he could be $1 million producer, but I could also train a guy for a year and a half and he may not crack 250. So finding that right person who maybe takes that avatar of that perfect person who both fits your culture and also understands the importance of what you're doing to train them. Tell me, and I think that this is kind of an important piece to touch on, and you can respond to that as well. I told you I was going to, and then I just continued on. You have you have all parts of your organization recruiting, not just you. Tell me a little bit about your internal referral program, because when you told me this, I was kind of taken back as how you do it, where each employee is able to refer people, not only business and jobs, but also refer candidates to work there.
Yeah, I was doing a little bit of math that I want to bring up in a minute, but yeah, the deal is for me is a new employee, they say, could cost anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 if you hire wrong, depending on how long you keep them. And we're investing quite a bit of money into these guys. We're giving them $20,000 to $25,000 just to get them trained. So we decided to give $1,500, but I switched things up recently. I'll give you $1,500 and there's a form you fill out if you find somebody that you're going to sign off on and vouch for. I'll give you $500 if you just are out there recruiting. And these things, the reason why is I want to give a little bit of a weighted to the people that vouch. And the biggest thing is it's your culture. I got a morning mojo call. I've got 3 morning calls that I'm talking to all the guys all the time. And you got to beat this drum all day, every day on the Thursday morning meeting for an hour. I'm talking about recruit. Who can you call? What customers can you talk to about it? And it's $1,500, and that's such a small amount of money, but it makes them kind of move, because I'm like, guys, if you give me 2 guys a month, that's 36 grand a year. That's a lot more than some people make total. So we've got other ways to make money, but it's that important because my top producers will go find a couple more top producers. And then you've got this machine. But for what I want for my growth, I needed to set something else up. And I feel like in the last 2 months, we started the sprint and we've understood something. I had no idea. I'm getting trained right now on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And I'm getting trained. There's 5 softwares for each social media. And there's all these trends. And I got to tell you, it might sound crazy because I'm a garage door guy, but I'm getting obsessed with social media, not in the way that most people are. I'm getting obsessed because of the results. And the average person spends, I think, 58 minutes on TikTok a day. And when you learn how to master these tools, it's game over. I've never seen anything like what's happening, and I'm just getting started. I'm talking, I could get 6 to 10 leads a day on employees per market at a bare minimum. And that's TikTok's barely even started. So my goal is to get 20 a day. And that's from social media. Indeed, Monster, Craigslist, all those things still work. The problem is you're going to the unemployment line. You're going for somebody looking for a job. Find somebody that has a job and give them a career. The best interview you. You're interviewing them, but they're interviewing you. And if you don't have a system to get the best people in the world that already have a job, I feel like you're going to be really stunning your growth.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you made a fantastic point there at the end, as far as, that candidate's going to be interviewing you. I've always been a big believer in that. You hear all the people, and I'm sure you hear it as well. There's no good people out here. There's no, I can't find technicians, this, that, and the other. And I'm always quick to say, well, would they want to come work for you? What are you doing out there that makes you a desirable location? Maybe they'll just find you. And I think I'd like for you to speak on, one, how you build the culture within your home base there in Phoenix, but then also managing culture from afar. You're in 19 different states. Obviously, you can't be in every state every day. How do you both manage the culture internally there in Phoenix, and then also around the country as well at the same time?
I've mentioned this story on my podcast probably 3 times over the last couple of years. And there's this guy named Darren Hardy. He wrote The Compound Effect. He wrote some really good books. He wrote, I'm trying to think of some other ones. Anyways, one day he was thinking about his wife, who he wanted to marry before he got married. And he wrote down 100 things he wanted in a woman. And he wrote down all of the emotions and the love and the happiness and the humor, and just a list of 100. But then he stopped and he thought about it, and he said, wait a minute, who do I need to become to get a woman like this? Because right now, Darren Hardy or Tommy Mello is not the right person to attract that woman. So that means he had to become so much better. So he made a list of 100 things he needed to become. And I think that goes along, if you could take that concept and apply it to work, is what does my place need to be like? I need to be a good listener. I need to have an open door. I need to be a good communicator. I need to be enthusiastic. I need to be able to do fun things, build memories with these. These are my family. So list a lot of things and think about what you want your culture to look like, and then say, what does that look like? And you might say, a lot of guys say, I just don't have the money like you have, Tommy, to buy arcade games and big buck hunter, golden tee. I'm like, have you ever heard of Bisquick for pancakes? If you just show up to work one day and make some pancakes for your guys and gals, that goes a long way. A pizza party of just knowing their names and their kids' names. So we're working on sending a card out every birthday, their anniversary date for their marriage, if they have one, is also here. And there's never any, I have so many ideas, and it continues to flow on how to make it better. But all I want people to do is say that we're constantly improving and bettering them. That's my plan. And I think when you really talk about culture, there's a good book called Built to Last by Jim Collins. And he talks about leadership, either CEOs, COOs, that leave the company better off when they're gone. And Jack Welch did a great job of this, is think about, is this company going to be around forever? Am I building something that's going to last? And I think about that all the time, because if you think about great companies, A1 garage door service is, I don't know if it'll be able to swivel off in 25 years when robots are doing everything, or there might not be garages because of the name. But I do think this company and this group of people that we build, and hopefully I'm still here at the tail end of the career then, but hopefully we're able to swivel and build something because of the community and the people that we built. Because you're only, I stand on the shoulders of giants, and the giants are my people. And they're my coworkers. Is really the best way to respect them, is not say they're my employees, they're my coworkers.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tommy, I think that for those of the listeners that know you, I think that oftentimes you can be associated with very high energy, a lot of ideas, a lot of things going on. But I think that you just hit the nail on the head as to why you are so successful. And it's what I really preach and try to emulate as something that I've learned from you. Is it's all about caring. That's culture. That's leadership. It's sending those cards. It's knowing employees' names. It's the Bisquick and the pancakes, regardless if you know how to cook or any good at it or whatever it may be. It's the simple act of showing that you care. One idea I got from a guy that I'll share with you, and you may already be doing it, but I think it aligns really well with the fact that you fly in a number of the trainees, is I talked to a guy, and this just shows you can learn something from anywhere. When they send people off to Next Star training, they send their spouse a bouquet of flowers and a card, basically saying, thank you. We really appreciate you allowing your spouse to go away for training. They're at the right place, so on and so forth. But I stole that idea when you were talking. I was like, oh, I'm going to share that with him. That would be something good for them. I imagine they're probably already doing it, but if not, you got it.
That's genius. I was just talking to my marketing team, and we built a film about a month ago, and it sounded something like this. Hey there, Tommy Mello here. I'm the owner of A1 Garage Door Service, and I just wanted to thank you so much, because your significant other is about to embark on the best adventure he's ever going to go through, or she. And the plan is to fly him out here. They're going to be learning a career. And the coolest thing about it is, I know a lot of spouses, I know a lot of people get worried about, is the money going to be good? And I promise you, if they put their effort in, and the whole thing is about making the spouse feel good. And what I realized is, as I'm getting tons and tons and tons and tons of leads, everybody says, what's the pay like? How does the pay work? So I'm making a whole video, but I'm getting the spouses in the video, because you got to sell the spouses. So the spouses are going to say, I was really worried because it sounded like performance pay was a scary thing, not to have a set paycheck. But the fact is, we have dental, we have pet insurance, we have PTO, we have the coolest things. And the paychecks have never been less than $1,500 a week. And so the more they understand that on the pay, then another thing I could tell you, that I try to do is if we're going to start having contests like this, is fly the spouse out if you're in the top 10% to spend time a 3-day weekend with them. So that gives a little bit of like encouragement to try a little bit harder. But there's that piece. And then I also had another guy tell me on the podcast years ago. He said, we always ask people what they would do if they had $20. What would they spend it on? And as part of the interview questions, if you had $20, just curious, just for little hobbies and interests, would you go to a movie theater? Would you go eat ice cream with your girlfriend or boyfriend? And then what would you do if you had $100? And so the $20 gift, whatever it might be, movie tickets, bowling, they get that when they graduate. The $100 gift they get on their 1-year anniversary. And it just shows that you care. And this guy won best restaurants in Toronto or best restaurant in Canada. So lots of little things you could do, but I agree wholeheartedly. Dave Ramsey says, here's the biggest secret he'll ever tell about hiring his employees is he brings the significant other and the person you're hiring out to dinner. And what he's looking for is mannerisms. Does the man pull the chair out? Does he open the door for the woman? How do they, there's a doctor out there that says he knows within 8 minutes of people associate just talking with each other, they're going to stay married or not. And listen, if you've got a living hell at home, how can you come to work and be optimistic and happy? So seeing their interactions together is what Dave Ramsey swears by, is how he hires. If they're just perfect together, that makes it that much easier. Plus the significant other is bought in. So you absolutely hit the nail on the head, is that person needs to be, because when you come home and have a bad day at work, if they're like, look, I didn't feel good about this place in the beginning, that's what they're hearing. But if they're like, no, they care. I could call up Tommy. I could call Adam. I could call Brian. It's a completely different thing in that case.
Yeah, absolutely. We try very hard to get the spouse, any company outing or party, we always address it to both the employee and the spouse. If it's an employee spouse event, but really just making sure that they see the care. One practice that I was taught a while back is thank you notes. And one thing that I never do is it's very easy. I never write a thank you note to someone on our team and just go set it on their desk. While they'll appreciate it, the better thing that I found to do is to mail it to their house. Because at that point in time, you're getting, while you're thanking the, the employee for whatever it may be, great day, or just to know that they're appreciated. The spouse sees that as well. And I think that hits on your point, is you've got to get the whole family involved. If you're going to care about an employee, well, you can't just care about them at work. You've got to care about the whole person, or else you're only going to get part of the person. But when you care about them as a whole person, you ask them how their weekend went, how their kids are doing, all of those things. When it comes to leadership is very simple. You have to take a genuine interest in those that you're leading, and that's when they'll follow. Not when it's, well, this guy really just cares if I can, crank out this number and hit this KPI and do this. Well, that's only going to last so long, and probably not a super healthy way to run a company, out of basically fear that if I don't hit this, there's going to be trouble.
Well, yeah, that's the worst thing in the world. And I think you hit the nail on the head earlier when you said nobody could find anybody. Number one, the pay hasn't been thought out enough. The pay grade is a big deal because they're not charging enough. There's a thing called send out cards. And I got another link that I kind of go through a bunch of examples of how I use it, and everything from how I give it to my mom. And I'll send you the link, Chad, but it's unlimited cards, as long as they're called heartfelt cards. And you could set, it's unlimited with unlimited postage for under $100 a month. So if you want to send out, you got employees, you want to send them 3 a month, you can send out 300 that includes postage. It's pretty cool. They're nice cards. Yeah. So, and what helps is when you get somebody always taking pictures and things that they'll remember. I was on another podcast about a year ago, and the guy said, I don't give raises, I don't give bonuses anymore. He goes, what I do is I buy great things for my employees. Like if they're a runner, I get them really nice marathon shoes, because every time they put those shoes on, it's amazing that they get a warm feeling about where they work. And it's interesting to me because you can find so much out about people on social media if you know how to research correctly. And There's another good book called Blue Fishing. And Steve Sims talks about figuring out what people want. And I recommend that book to anybody. Like I said, I'll get you the card site, but Blue Fishing is just these gifts. For example, he was in Italy, I think he said, and he got this drink, and it was just absolutely like the best drink ever. So he asked the bartender, do you have these in recipe forms, like some type of like coaster or napkin with the recipe? He's like, yeah. He goes, I'll take 300 of them, and you'll probably get 300 people come visiting you. So he wrote another letter with the recipe and said, you got to check out this restaurant in Italy if you get a minute. And these are worldwide customers of his. But it's just one of my buddies, Chad, another Chad, he's always thoughtful. If he's at a store, if he's doing something, he's thinking about their kids, everything. It doesn't cost much money. It's the little knickknacks and gifts, but always just thinking, what can I do to give? And that's one thing that I want to be better at. So I surrounded myself with a few people that I'm trying to emulate, because that's the best way to do it, is put somebody around you and try to think like they think.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got, where is it? So this one here is another good one by Gary Chapman. It's called The 5 Languages of Appreciation in the Workplace. You got it? I imagine you do.
Yeah, right here.
Yep.
And it's got a free test you can take on it too.
Yeah. So I was first introduced to it by my wife, because he also wrote The 5 Love Languages, which is obviously more geared towards your relationship with your significant other. But this one, also written by him, is extremely impactful, because I think sometimes as leaders, it's very easy to get sidetracked when it comes to this subject of appreciation for the people that you work with, because, everyone's given that gift and never heard thank you, or, hey, I really put some thought behind that and they didn't seem to like it, or whatever it may be. And then there's also the all company meetings where you've got this guy and you want to bring him up in front of the crowd. And, what this book teaches you is that may be literally the worst thing you could ever do to him. Like, he doesn't want to be up in front of that crowd for anything. But really understanding your people, and there again, it just goes back to how much do you care about the people that you're serving with, for sure.
This book will change your life. It just happens to be on my desk. 1,501 ways to reward employees. Low cost and no cost ideas, best practices, latest trends. There's so many good things in this book. I got a few copies of it. I give them out here and there. And the fact is that there's so many things you could do for employees. And I got to tell you that one of the things that I just have been talking about in these last 2 weeks is hiring somebody full-time. That just as they're gathering pictures, we do one big charity. When this group comes in, they're going to go on an all-day event. And last time we painted the YMCA, the time before that we planted trees, the time before that we did Shop with a Cop, all these different things. Once we're donating a lot to charity, and I got to tell you, Chad, I usually have 2 birds or 3 birds with one stone, because it's great publicity. The guys really felt good. It's for a great cause. And I always give them a little kit to give us a link to the website, because right now we're raising 25,000 bottles of water. And it's so cool what we're doing, because in Arizona, a lot of people die from dehydration. So there's some cool tools out there too, that you could reverse engineer charities that, I hate to say this, but like I said, 2 birds with one stone, is there's certain websites that just they're real charities. It tells you where the stuff is going to. One of the things I recommend is go into the ones that it all goes towards the cause. And then if there's a way to get media, I don't think you're doing anything wrong. You got to have a place in your heart of giving, but there's also taking the full advantage of everything that you do. And, we give a lot to like T-ball, and like the kids, if the people that work here, if their kids need something, we got a monthly budget for that. So it's pretty cool. And then another thing I'd recommend too is when we're talking about this stuff is local PR in every market. You might have a PR strategist, but the local PR person knows all the contacts at the news. They know, they just make a phone call, and the news anchors or the news people are out there. And something I'm also working on And
Yeah,
when we go
yeah, I
into a
think
market, I've got a checklist of like everything we buy from, they all look the same. We buy the same wall art, same computers, same rugs that say our core values on them, same mouse pads that say our core values. Everything's the same. And then we also set up the GMB. We've got a plan to get our reputation really big, really fast. Going to a new market, there's a lot of things that are on our checklist. And actually, I didn't add PR person on there, but I'm going to add that.
Yeah, we signed up with a PR agency here probably about 6 months ago or so, and they just do an unbelievable job. We use Ripley PR. I believe they're out of Tennessee, I want to say. Heather is the president there, and she has industry background in the trades and stuff like that, and they just do. I've never heard from internal people the amount of good praise towards a vendor. Like, oh my God, they're really on top of it. Oh my God, they wrote this whole thing. They took care of this. They took care of that. They've just done a really good job of keeping us up on top of like all those things you say. There's so many times when you do good deeds or help a customer out or do something like that, it's okay to showcase that, I think. I mean, it's not like bragging. You're just bringing it to the attention of, hey, this is who we are as a company. And I think it goes to recruiting too.
It is. And one of the guys told me, he goes, think of it this way, Tommy. He said, you go out there on the news and you say, this is what we're doing and you should help us and you should do this too. Instead of saying, look at us, you say, listen, we're trying to raise money, come help us. And we gave blood. I dressed up like Dracula we did 2 or 3 blood drives. And it was really, really fun. And I got to tell you this too, understanding pay for performance deals. It's a PR thing too, but I've got some companies I work with that are all performance paid. They do all the advertising and I don't pay anything unless there's an ROI. So that's one thing I recommend too. I was going to tell you earlier that if you get $1 million producer and you're willing to spend 10% in marketing and they run a lot of jobs, 1,200, 4 times 300, you get $83.30 to pay per lead. You see, the biggest misconception out there, and this is going back a little bit, but I really wanted to mention this. I like the number 10% a lot. I even go a little bit higher than that in a new market. But when you look at it, if you got a $500 producer, you could only spend about $41.50. So here's my biggest problem is people they switch back and forth to capacity planning. I don't have the techs. I don't have the jobs. If you get top producing techs, you'll always have the jobs because you can pay where other people can't. You can pay for that branding, which is outdoor, TV, radio, billboards. Those are the big 3. And, then you start getting searches on Google for your company and your cost per click goes down and Google starts ranking better and the social media flies. And so it's a direct correlation is what people need to understand. And I'm probably going to write about this in my next book. But the more top producers you have, the higher booking agents and get them on a performance pay, the more you could pay them, but it's still less. I could pay somebody $35 an hour or I could pay 3 people $15 an hour. I still save $10 by paying that $35 an hour. And then I could advertise for more of those people that are 10 out of 10 rather than getting 3 6s. And it's a direct correlation that if I spend the money and get great guys and train them right, and they produce over $1 million, I can pay more per lead than anybody. And when you know that is when you can win the game every time. So people say, how do you know if you're going to be able to afford the leads? I can afford the leads for any top producer because I can buy the leads. I know how to do it. There's so many places out there that people go, yeah, I don't like PPC. You're an idiot. I'm sorry. But the biggest thing is you got to bet on your own keywords. And, the question is, do you want to do your own branded terms or do you want to do unbranded? I do both. And I think any big company does both. But, a lot of people say Valpak doesn't work. A lot of people say Nextdoor doesn't work or Home Advisor doesn't work. I can tell you firsthand, I've never found anything, including Craigslist, including Marketplace on Facebook, that doesn't work. It's dedication, and it's consistency. Chad, I had 20 garage door companies here and they go, how do you sleep at night? Charging the prices you charge. And I got to tell you, I'm not the most expensive. And I go, what's really interesting about that question is I have real employees, W-2. They all have paid vacation. They all get a lot of lunches, a lot of dinners from me. They all get insurance. They all get the best training. I give them $2,500 worth of tools. I take care of them. They're my family. Here's the differences. We have new computers. We have brand new trucks. We have great insurance. And I'm not making over 20% bottom line, but the difference is, how do you sleep at night? Because you can't afford to get out of the truck or get out of the office all day because it doesn't run right. So to be able to delegate, have the air conditioning cold out when it's 120 in Arizona, have nice things. How do you sleep at night? And all of them were like, oh, never really thought about. Like, well, I'm kind of a slave to, they're slaves to their businesses. And I go, I'm not gouging customers. I'm charging the prices that it takes to run a successful business because I need to make a living. And the company still needs to make a profit. Those are the two things. People think profit of the company and my living are the same thing. Yeah, I made 150 grand last year. Well, what did the company make? I just told you 150. So the company made zero. Your business is worth nothing. It's a joke. It's worth zero. They don't understand arbitrage. They don't understand the valuations of a company. And they complain. They say they've been around 30 years. And I hate to tell them this, but if you don't like me, it's because I tell the truth. And I'm stating the facts that you have a big fat zero until you figure out how to make money personally for yourself each year. And the company makes a profit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I think that is especially in our industry, in the trades and in the home services, is, understanding what scale looks like. And you can't scale if, one, you're not charging the right price, and two, if you don't understand what scaling is going to result in, and what it has to result in as it relates to you. I think that's the biggest thing when I talk to businesses that are maybe a little bit smaller. We have guys in for tours, is, hey, I want to grow. I want to be as, and I'm sure you've heard this too, I want to be like this and run this type of thing. And you guys seem to have it really going on. And it's like, my first question to them is, okay, well, are you just saying that because what we have looks better than what you have? Or are you willing to change as a leader? Are you willing to change? Because you can't be, and you mentioned this earlier, you can't be the same person you are today at a company that's triple the size. It won't work. Because what will happen is you'll continue to hit that ceiling of where you are right now. You're the leader for your organization, but it's more times than not, and I don't know what your thoughts are on this, that what Maxwell talks about is kind of that law of the lid. My company is going to grow as much as I grow as the leader. It's when I stop growing that my company will stop or never start growing.
I do believe in that, especially for home service to a certain extent. The more I've grown, the more I've removed myself in a good way. I don't need to be at every meeting. I don't believe the culture does evolve around me still, but there will be a time, because of Good to Great or Built to Last, because of that book by Jim Collins, because I need to delegate and have other people put them in the power of decision making. Yes, absolutely. And I'm a big reader. I had a guy in here. I get a phone call the other day because I decided I want to be the biggest influencer in home service about 3 weeks ago. So I started making notes on the whiteboard of everything I was going to have to do. And it's funny. I'm like, I decided. It just came out of nowhere. And
Tuesday afternoon,
Yeah. So I decided I want to be the biggest person in the space. And I ran out all these things, and I started connecting with all these social media experts and how to grow your groups and stuff like that. And through the grapevine, this person says, have you talked to this guy about Google GMBs? And I go, no, I know a lot about GMBs. I know a lot. I know all about how to make them rank. I know about how to get reviews. I know about citation sites. I know about custom maps. And anyway, this guy happened to be flying into Phoenix the next day, and he's from England. And he sits down over here. He gives me 10 books to read. I give him 10 books to read. We're jamming. I got a printout of Local Viking. It's the tool I use to see where you rank. If you guys haven't heard of Local Viking, I recommend you get Local Viking. And long story short, he came and taught me, and he's getting me a proposal today. But he said there's 9 things GMBs rank on, and you're doing 4 of them. And he said you're doing really well, better than most. But when we get done, you'll spread out all over the city with your one listing, because you're taking the time. And then there's also the more of the offense approach is getting fake ones removed. And that's just taking the camera and doing Google. But the biggest thing I can tell you is all we're talking about right now. And I know we jump around, and I got an extra 15 minutes if you want to go past 11. But I've been reading a lot, and I'm trying to figure out the difference between millionaires and billionaires. And I think I got a couple attributes that I want to share. Is number one is you're only as big as your network. I make a phone call. I'm always networking. I'm always meeting people. I'm always flying into new cities. I'm always reading books. I'm always reaching out to authors. I'm also always doing podcasting. In fact, I plan on being on 380 podcasts other than my own in the next 3 months. I know you're wondering how the hell you're going to do that. That's why my assistant has a crazy job to figure out my schedule. And that's part of the growth is how do you get the biggest home service is you got to extend outside of home service too. But realistically, there's two things: trust and your network. People got to trust the people that work with me, got to trust my decision making. They got to trust that I look after them, that I'm making decisions based on the better of the whole thing, not myself. Because if you ever looked at a social society, what happens is everybody becomes corrupt in the government. They got the biggest, best house, no one else is eating. And I just want to run this really like with their best intentions in mind with trust, but billionaires have a network. And that's what I'm saying. This guy shows up to me that all I do is breathe Google, and he's teaching me things. I try to be the dumbest guy in the room. And I think that's so important. No matter where you think you're at in life, there's still so much more to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. And I made mention of it at the very beginning of this podcast and your influence on me. And I've actually mentioned it on a number of podcasts because people ask, well, why do you do that? Doesn't that take up time? Doesn't that do that? And I'll never forget you saying that I learned the most while doing this. And to me, this is a podcast is really another platform of networking. It makes it a little bit easier to have a conversation with somebody and learn. I've got a whole page of notes here from you, and I've talked to you multiple times, and these are all new things that I've learned. The building the network, there's just always so much you can learn. I gave you an idea today of a guy who probably runs a $4 million, HVAC shop. Well, most people would say, well, why is Tommy going to listen to some guy from, he's from Tennessee that's running? Well, because he's got a good idea, and there's plenty of good ideas out there. It's just, are you willing to listen? Are you willing to kind of lower the barrier of your ego as a leader and as someone who's seen success in order to learn and grow and change? And I think that's really the mark, of someone who's going to be successful. As you pointed out, difference between a millionaire and a billionaire, that network and that openness to learn too. It's one thing to be able to call somebody, but it's another to seek them out for their information and listen and act upon what they're talking about.
Yeah, it's funny because I'll buy every book I could find. Like I've got probably 40 books on recruiting. I've read most of them. I've been gone Audible. And a lot of them say the same things, but there's always a little secret in each of them. And when you add those secrets up and those hidden gems, it starts to magnify. It starts to literally just really make a big deal. And, there's all these things out there. There's so many great things out there. What I've learned recently is you got to put someone in charge. When you're figuring out a new standard operating procedure or a checklist, there's got to be someone accountable, making sure that it's getting done. And there's got to be the stick, the carrot and the stick. And I think the biggest thing I see with small business owners, under 5 million is what I'll use for this example, is the whiteboard. They'll come up with great things and it'll happen for 2 weeks and then it fizzles out. And until you figure out a way to create an SOP, and it takes longer, create your standard operating procedure on one side of your whiteboard. I'm a big whiteboarder. And take your time with it, but take even longer to figure out how that standard operating procedure is going to be measured and the risk and reward that you're going to give with it and how it's going to be delegated properly and who's in charge of it, the one or two people. If you got a depth chart, there's two people because that person's not there. It still needs to get done. And what you'll find is the way that you're going to keep it measured and part of the culture and part of the company for a long term is you're going to spend more time on the second half of how you're going to measure and how you're going to make it easy for yourself. And I think a lot of people miss that. I'm just, just so you know, Chad, I could talk about one subject the whole time. I'm just trying to throw some bombs on this and kind of jumping around a little bit.
Yeah, I love it. It's awesome. And obviously we could talk for a long time, but obviously you'd mentioned you got some extra time. I've got kind of a tight one here coming up, but obviously we can continue this into the future. And if you're ever out in our neck of the woods,
Yeah,
you've
for
always got
sure.
an open invite. But as we wrap up here, what's one thing that you would leave the listeners with as it relates to what you've learned about leadership? Obviously, you said you'd been in the garage door business for about 15 years. Obviously, probably a lot of lessons learned, a lot of things that, oh yeah, shoot, I wish I would have done it that way, or whatever it is. What's one thing that you could share with the listeners that that you think may make an impact on the way that they lead their organization?
I'm just going to spout off a couple of things. Number one, readers are leaders. And if you're not reading books all the time and meeting new people and seeking people out, you're failing yourself, your team, your company. Number two, the best thing you could do, and the thing that I'm known for, and I haven't came and seen you yet, but that's going to happen here, is I'm always flying out of town to see somebody. And I'm surrounding myself with their culture, their energy, their people. And I bring an empty notebook, or sometimes I bring a notebook full of questions, and I just let it all sink in. And then I literally go on my calendar and start planning on my meetings and how I'm going to get these things implemented. There's no BS. Hey, yeah, blah, 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 blah. Go out there, get out of your comfort zone, stay somewhere that's not close to you, that you don't have maybe your kids and the significant other, not as a distraction, basically, and just go let it sink in. And the more you can do that, the faster you're going to grow. And I can tell you this, I probably travel too much right now, but I think I'm giving it all I got every single day to become better. And these next few hires and the last couple I've done are going to take us to $1 billion company. Plus, my goal is to get to 5.5 billion, if you really want to know. But the culture, though, my plan is to make everybody wealthy. Everybody's going to be a homeowner. Everybody's going to have 750 plus credit in this company. And that's what I want. And you know why I want that money? Is not to go buy a house and all over the country and do this. I want to spoil people. I want to hang out with a lot of these people. Next level stuff. I want to take 20 of my guys to Alaska and go hunting, whatever it is. It's not a selfish need that Tommy Mello needs this. That's what I want to do for people. I want to do what I want, when I want, with who I want. And most of those people happen to be here under this roof and in this company.
Yeah, you make some great points there, and the one that I want to focus on as we kind of wrap up is, again, it all comes back to care. We've all been put in a position as leaders to lift those up around us, and you said it beautifully there at the very end. Is you don't want to get to 5.5 billion for your own personal sake. You'd run out of motivation really quickly. You'd run out of motivation far sooner than it would take to get there. However, when you put I don't want to call it pressure, but when you put the responsibility upon your shoulders to do that for everybody else in the organization, all of a sudden some really special things start to happen, because you only have so many hours in the day. However, all the people surrounding you that understand that vision, understand what that means for them, understand what doing it together would mean for both them and their family, all of a sudden you just gained 24 hours there and 24 hours there and 24 hours there. And as you build this company with one vision, with one mission, with one care, all coming from that leader, all of a sudden your company will grow to that level. And it's not going to be because you cared about the next car or the next house that you were going to buy. That's not leadership. Leadership is all about, how do we inspire those around us to do more than they ever thought possible? And when you can get a group like that under one roof, amazing, amazing things can happen. Tommy, I can't thank you enough for joining us. Just a ton of stuff. I've learned a ton. I'm sure our listeners have as well. If we leave you with one thing today, listeners, the biggest thing is it all is about care. You have the ability to lead each and every day based on the effort that you put towards caring for those that you serve. Thanks again, Tommy. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Chad. Appreciate you.
Awesome. Until next time, everybody out there, keep growing, and we will see you on the next episode. Thank you.